IAG Insurance Australia Group is the largest general insurance company in Australia and New Zealand. But moreover, they live and breathe innovation. In terms of vision, strategy and making this happen, they are way ahead of similar size insurance carriers. That's why we invited Inge Kootjans, the director of IAG's FineMark Labs, to share their journey and plans at DIA Primetime. FireMark Labs focuses on creating, acquiring and partnering with cutting-edge ventures which operate beyond the traditional insurance vertical in ecosystems such as work, shelter and mobility. A perfect way to get access to new customer segments and to open totally new revenue streams. Mrs. Kootjans' broad innovation background includes working for blue chips such as Danone and Unilever, which reflects in the customer centricity of all FireMark Labs ventures. In our view, a key success factor.
Inge, great to have you here. Last February, IAG announced setting up a new division focused on strategy and innovation to build a technology edge. Digital is really top of the agenda at IAG. Can you share a bit more?
Yeah, so I guess for us, our digital strategy is really to accelerate and enable our corporate strategy, but then also being informed by our technology strategy. So what we're really trying to do is really capture the value and the potential that's created by digital technologies and capabilities, but then also, thinking about how we can deploy that and put it into action and put us aside from, competitors, put us ahead of competitors or disruptors that might enter the category. So I guess if you zoom in on our digital strategy, you can see that it stretches across 3 different horizons. So we try to digitize our core business and the way we work. Then what we also try to do is grow value through innovation and innovating how we serve customers, but also what we offer them, and then trying to increase our customer base and through deepening the relationship that we have. And then the third horizon is more around reimagining the business. And that is more about, creating new digital businesses, new offerings, entering new markets outside of insurance to actually bring in new to IAG customers, and then also, new digital models, but then also offering connected products and services.
Looking at the third horizon, I think that's where FireMark also comes into play. Can you share a bit more about FireMark, what it is? There's FireMark Ventures, FireMark Labs in Singapore, FireMark Labs in Sydney and Auckland. Can you explain a bit more about what they do and how they differ?
Yeah, so FireMark was created a few years ago, and I think it was really acknowledging also the fact that we needed to look beyond insurance, or we needed to look at tech insurance, but also beyond insurance. So what we did is set up various labs that actually then enabled us to unlock some of those opportunities. So if we look at FineMark Labs ANZ, in FineMark Labs ANZ, we really tried to use evidence-based kind of experimentation models to really rapidly dive into opportunities that we see, shape opportunities, identify new ventures, but then really looking at desirability, feasibility, and viability, and using some creating opportunities and shaping them in a way that they actually link to our purpose, which is we make your world a safer place, whilst also really addressing a customer need, removing customer pain points, but of course also looking at the various assets and creating ventures that we can actually scale. So, we've developed a framework that actually enables us to identify those opportunities, but then work through all the way through kind of scaling ventures as well.
So, FireMark Labs ANZ is about creating new ventures and new business models yourself, not necessarily in insurance. So, how about FineMark Labs in Singapore?
Yeah, so FineMark Labs works along uses similar principles. I guess their focus is probably slightly more tech focused, and so they also have that access to the Asian economy and some of the technology that we see there. They partner also a lot with some of the startups there and the universities, and they explore more like data-driven kind of business models enabled by like artificial intelligence and sensor technology.
And of course, there's also FireMark Ventures.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so FireMark Ventures They have a mandate that really makes them focus on more tech focused and data focused kind of spaces like artificial intelligence and machine learning, data analytics, computer vision, cybersecurity, a whole raft of things. But they then also look at things and try to find opportunities and startups to invest in that really align at the same time with the various ecosystems that we focused on, being mobility, work, and shelter. So one of the investments that they made is in HyperAnna, and HyperAnna is a voice-enabled artificial intelligence data analytics tool, that we also use and we apply to our data, which then creates insights for us as a business as well.
HyperAnna, nice company name. Can you give a few examples of other portfolio companies?
Yeah, so if we look at the mobility space, for example, we've got a venture which is called MobilityAI, which is an AI and analytics platform. So that really helps us to combine data from various sources to create valuable insights for IAG. And it will enable us to develop various products and services. Like, for example, it might enable us to create user-based insurance, or it will actually help us to develop predictive risk and repair services for drivers, or it will create like rider safety kind of products, for example. And Safer Journeys is an example of that, something that has been linked also to MobilityAI and is informed by MobilityAI. And Safer Journeys is an automated crash detection service. So what that does is it prompts a response from the Safer Journeys rapid response call center in case of a in case of a collision. So what it does, it collects data while you're driving, so it knows how fast you're driving and how you're turning corners and whatnot. But if in case of a collision, it can actually help us to identify whether it's a low impact collision or whether it's a high impact collision. And in case of a high impact collision, we will reach out to see whether you need support, or we will actually alert emergency services to come and assist.
I also came across a company called Carbar.
Yeah. So yes, we a while ago we actually started to explore the vehicle access space. So we acknowledge that a vehicle ownership will look very different in the future, and less people actually might own a vehicle, or they actually are looking for more flexible solutions. So then, when we were exploring that space, we came across a company called Carbar, and they offer vehicle subscription. So vehicle subscription is comparable to a lease. So you have your own vehicle in front of your house or in your garage, but actually it offers much more flexibility in the sense of you need to give only 2 week notice to wrap up the subscription. But also you can change vehicles 4 times a year without any additional cost. And so it really offers much more flexibility to the driver of the vehicle.
When you mention MobilityAI, Safer Journeys and Carbar, I can't help noticing that all of these 3 portfolio companies are not operating in the insurance vertical. They are all active in an adjacent industry in the mobility ecosystem, more than in traditional insurance.
Yes, I think previously we were probably overly focused on the day-to-day and on the insurance business. But I think as an organization, we actually realized that we need to look beyond insurance. The world evolves around us, and so do our customers and their needs. So we're looking to see how we can actually address some of those needs as customers have more holistically. So not only looking at insurance, but actually also beyond. Like I mentioned before, the world of mobility has changed, so vehicle ownership is changing. But we are looking also at fully autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles. We've seen a massive uptake in that space. So I think things will disrupt the industry, and so we need to evolve as a business with that as well. When we look at, for example, the home. I mean, the home is no longer only a place where we live, but especially since COVID, I think the home has become a place where we work a lot more than we probably imagined to. But it's also become a place where we actually socialize with work colleagues, but then maybe via screen. So, it has really, really evolved and changed. So, I think From a business point, we definitely sort of need to look beyond and evolve beyond insurance.
Especially when ventures are operating in adjacent industries, there is always a lot of debate with regard to the distance between ventures and the parent company. How did you organize that at IAG?
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of different ways to go about it, and lots of schools of thought around what methodology or what is actually best. So we actually try different models. So we have ventures that actually we invested in but operate at arm's length, so are without little interference or little strings attached to IAG. But then also we have ventures that we build ourselves, that sit a little bit closer to home, and so that actually also sit in the building. But then we also have ventures that we spin out. So yeah, we're trying different models, spinning in, spinning out, building them ourselves. I don't think we necessarily have it right all the time. I think also you need to reassess regularly about what is right. It also depends on the founders team that you work with, the stage of the venture, the complexity of the venture. So yeah, I don't think there's one size fits all, and you just need to look and assess on a regular basis what's best.
On the one hand, all those ventures create new assets and new competencies that could be very, very well used by the parent, by IAG. And on the other hand, of course, all the assets and competencies that the parent has acquired over decades can be very useful for the venture. So, how do you make sure, or how do you enable, that they really use each other's assets and competencies? So how do you secure that value flows back to the core? Or, taking the other perspective, how do you cope with the corporate immune system?
Yeah. So yeah, we do quite a lot in that area, and what we do is we engage stakeholders very early on to really understand what the assets are, map out the assets, and just really try to understand from both sides, like what we've got and how we could actually benefit equally. So what we do is we run what we call synergy workshops, where we bring in both, the ventures, the teams from the venture, as well as key internal stakeholders, and then we work together and think about, okay, what is the potential that we've got? So what have we got, and what could we potentially do with that? So clarifying also what it is, and defining what we actually use as part of that synergy, what's included and what's not, because that's very important as well to have the clarity around that quite early on, so that both parties then have a clear understanding of, yeah, this is what we can work with, and then so we can then develop a roadmap and take that either into the business or into the venture, and we can we can bring in the right resources and put it onto roadmaps as we go. So I think what is interesting as well to keep doing that throughout across the portfolio of ventures as well, because if ventures that we build and ventures that we invest in will bring in new assets, or we develop them internally as well.
At the end of the day, the activities of FireMark should contribute to the digital transformation of IAG as a whole. So how do the activities of FireMark and the new ventures that you create yourself or that you acquire influence the cultural change at IAG?
I think what we've seen is we've had some successes recently, and the team has worked really, really hard based on a new framework that we defined, which has a lot of rigor behind it. And I think creativity does need discipline, just to keep everyone focused on the right things and actually be able to focus on the content and creating great ideas and actually driving growth for the various ventures. And if people across the business see that it can be done, that is super, super helpful, and it creates belief and creates momentum. So what we see now is actually that other parts of the business are asking and trying to understand how we approach things, to see how they can learn from that. And I think for us, what is really important in terms of culture, we really are about like getting runs on the board, rather than ideas on a piece of paper. So the team is very driven and is there to deliver. I guess also from a cultural point of view, what we really, really focused on is making sure that we celebrate failure as much as we celebrate success. And I think in an environment like this, that is absolutely crucial. And I think that the rest of the business actually has enjoyed observing that and seeing how the resilience and the adaptability of the team and bouncing back and just keeping at it, with such an enormous drive and energy has really rubbed off.
Thanks, Inge. Very insightful.